Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order our August 27th, 2019 regular meeting of the Mason County Board of Commissioners. Begin with our Pledge of Allegiance. Marilyn Bungler, will you please lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And item number 3, if the clerk would please take roll.
Commissioner District 1, Randy Netherland.
I'm here.
Commissioner District 2, Kevin Schutte.
Here.
Commissioner District 3, Sharon Trask.
I'm here.
Thank you. Item number 4, correspondence and organizational business. If the clerk would please report the correspondence.
Washington State Association of Counties, or WASAC, sent a request for funding to conduct an economic impact study. Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Board sent a liquor license application for the Shelton Rotary Club. And the Washington State Department of Health sent in an administrative order reclassifying a portion of the Pickering Passage commercial shellfish growing area from conditionally approved to approved.
Very good, thank you. Moving on to item number 5. It's our opportunity for citizen input. If you have comments to make on items not on tonight's agenda, raise your hand. The chair will recognize you. Come forward and state your name and make your comments. We do try to limit comment to about 3 minutes per person. So if there's anyone who would like to make public comment. I like the enthusiasm.
Yes. Hi, my name is Chris Drury. Live in the center of Mason County, and I teach up at North Mason High School. I just wanted to bring to the public's attention, we are at the high school holding our 3rd annual North Mason Band mattress fundraiser. It will be on September the 7th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. It is a fundraiser that helps us raise money towards all the different things that we do at the high school with the band. We travel to many different events, different functions, competitions, support all the local activities. And once again, we are hosting our mattress sale. We have someone who comes in and delivers many different examples or samples for us to try out. There's about 30 that they'll bring in. People can try out, lay down there. If you fall asleep, we'll wake you up. And if you don't need a mattress, we do have mattress frames. We have pillows. They have a little bit of everything to help you sleep better. So my question to the 3 of you is, how was your sleep last night? And would you be interested in a new mattress? Because we'll have them there.
Yeah, pillows, huh?
We have pillows. We have pillow tops, the mattress tops. They have frames. They even have those reclining frames to sell. So everything from twin beds, as they say here, 229, fulls, queens, king, California kings, just about anything. If you need a custom one, I even think they do that for trailers, RVs, if you have one. All the money raised comes back to help us at the band, so we don't have to sell them. We do have someone who knows all about these mattresses to sell them for us. All we do is try and get you there so you can have a better night's sleep.
Excellent. What's the band theme this year?
The band's theme?
Yeah, what do you
Oh, for our fall
Yeah,
show?
yeah.
The theme for the fall is Phoenix Rising, which is just happen to be wearing the shirt, right? Just happen to be representing their shirt today. So, yeah, we are doing a theme off of the mythological bird Phoenix, using some of Stravinsky's Firebird Suite as the music.
Great. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item number 6, adoption of tonight's agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the agenda as written.
I will second.
Moved and seconded to adopt the agenda as written. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the motion carries. Moving on to item number 7, approval of minutes. There are minutes from August 12th and August 19th, 2019 briefing minutes, and August 13th and August 20th, 2019 regular meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of the August 12th and August 19th briefing meeting minutes as presented, and the August 13th and 20th, 2019 regular meeting minutes as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the August 12th and 19th, 2019 briefing minutes, and August 13th and August 20th, 2019 regular meeting minutes as presented. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the motion carries. Moving on to item number 8, approval of our action agenda tonight. Commissioners will read through the items on tonight's action agenda, at which time a commissioner or a member of the public may ask to have an item removed for a separate discussion and vote. Commissioner Trask, if you'd please read item 8.1 and 2. Commissioner Netherland, if you'd please read 8.3, and I'll do 8.4 and 5.
Right. Item 8.1, approval to amend Resolution 48-19 to revise the non-represented salary scale range alignment by approving the request to remove the chief appraiser from the non-represented salary scale. Item 8.2, approval of a resolution amending change and petty cash funds for community services and environmental health.
Mr. Chairman, item number 8.3 reads approval to set a public hearing on Tuesday, September 17, 2019 at 9:15 a.m. to consider approval of the following supplemental appropriations and amendments to the 2019 budget. Total budget supplemental appropriation request: General Fund $13,147, Community Service Health Fund $44,993. Total budget amendment request: General Fund, $337,964. Previous 2019 request was $262,798. Total for 2020 impact is approximately $616,080. Also, Sales and Use Tax Fund, $50,000.
Item 8.4, approval to set a hearing Tuesday, September 17th, 2019 at 9:15 a.m. to sell parcel 32127-53-00174 located on East Mason Lake Road. And item 8.5, claim approval of warrants and treasurer electronic remittances. Claims clearing fund warrant numbers 8066486 through 8066659 in the amount of $515,248.85. Having read through the items on tonight's action agenda, commissioners, are there any items you'd like to have removed for a separate discussion or vote?
No.
Okay, and is there any member of the public that would like to have an item removed for a separate discussion or vote? Okay, having none, we will entertain a motion on the action agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval of the action agenda as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the action agenda as presented. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the motion carries. Moving on to item number 9, other business. Any department heads or elected officials that would like to address the commission?
I have something I'd like to ask of you, just so I can be sure that I'm doing it correctly. In our last briefing, we had an agreement that we were going to accept or offer up a counter offer on a piece of property. At the same time, another offer came in. Does it hold that I am to accept the highest one above that counter offer? Would that be your guys' agreement with what you had set me forward to do?
Yes.
So I thought I just wanted to verify it just in case, so I didn't overstep.
Good. Okay, we cannot yet start our public hearings under item 10, so we'll move on to board reports and calendars. I'll get us started. Commissioner Trask and then Commissioner Netherland, if you please finish up for us. Just a couple of items moving forward this week. We have the Housing and Behavioral Health Advisory Board meeting. I have a meeting with the Army Corps of Engineers talking about the Skokomish Valley projects. I'll also be attending and participating in the Overdose Awareness Walk this Thursday evening here at Neyland Park. And then I'll be attending the Law Enforcement Breakfast on Friday. And then back next week, not on Monday, but on Tuesday for meetings. Commissioner?
Right. Tomorrow I will be touring a landfill for the bulk of the day. Hopefully I'll get back in time for the Community Action Council Board meeting. I will also be attending the Overdose Awareness Walk and the Sheriff's Breakfast on Friday. And then that brings us back to the commission meeting on Tuesday.
Thank you.
I met with Kathy Haig in regards to some of the issues going on with the Housing Authority, and we're all going to be meeting with her the week after that. I attended a second degree where George Blush was moving up the ranks at Union City. Tom Taylor, he was the last county commissioner before me in Belfair, and that was 1977. when he was elected. He was a great man. We lost a great community person. He served many years as a fire commissioner as well. What a great loss for our community, but it was really nice to see all the people that did come out for it. It warms my heart when I see some of them are still do remember, because I've been to a few lately where some great people and nobody were there. It was so wonderful to see so many of our local people for this. We had our briefings, North Mason Community Voice meeting, where we both attended, and I want to give a pat on the back to Commissioner Trash. She did a wonderful job out there, and she was well received, and just wanted to say thank you for going out there and having that conversation with them. Today it was a very special day for me. Today was a big change in my life. I took my 16-year-old son and he got a driver's license today. And so if you have any idea what it's like to be a commissioner that will drive from Olympia or Shelton all the way up to take your kid to Bremerton, wherever they have, come back to do another meeting, that's what you do. As of today, that shortens down, if not stops. And I very much was excited about that, because right now, he went to football practice without me, and that was wonderful. I hate to say it that way, but but all the rest of you, be careful.
I was going to say, will you give us all advance warning?
Yeah. Actually, within 3 days after he got his permit, how I taught him how to drive is we took a road trip. We drove from here to 45 minutes north of Mexico and back. And in that time, he drove through the rain, he drove through the middle of the night, he drove through Los Angeles traffic. He went through everything. By the time he got back here, the boy knew how to drive. And so he did very well on his test today. And so, a big day.
How's he at zipper merging?
Well, actually, it's hard to tell there, because there you're going 2 miles an hour. When you're down in California and you're zipper merging, you're barely moving, if you're moving at all. So I think a 3-year-old could pull that one off. So I'm not sure. Although they have more accidents there, so who knows. So after this, this next week, we have that opioid awareness fair and walk that's happening on Wednesday. I'll be there. A Mason Transit facilities and maintenance and stuff board or committees meeting. Meeting of the YWR 15. It says on the calendar there's a port meeting, but because it's the holiday, I don't know if that's in fact going to happen, the Port Allen. If it does, I will be there. And we'll also have a left board meeting right before our other commission meeting.
Okay, very good. Well, you got us fairly close to to 6:15. Is this the official time? Melissa still here on here, or are we off?
Yes, no, it's good.
Okay. Yeah, yes, no. It's good. Okay, we've crossed over the 6:15 time on our official clock up here. So we'll begin with item 10.1. We have a public hearing to consider the sale of parcel 32021-56-01013, 160 East Panorama Drive in the amount of $5,000. Ask staff to come forward and brief.
Thank you, Commissioners. Frank Pinter. This is a public hearing to consider the sale of parcel number 32021-56-01013 at 160 East Panorama Drive in the amount of $5,000. The parcel was considered tax title and was deeded to Mason County. An attempt was made to sell the parcel in the 2018 tax title auction with no interested bidders. Per RCW 36.15.151D, this parcel can be sold by direct negotiation within 12 months of the attempted auction. The recommendation here is to approve to sell parcel 32021-56-01013, 160 East Panorama Drive for $5,000.
Very good, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for staff? Okay, any questions from the public for staff? Okay, hearing none, we'll open the public comment period again. If you'd like to make comment on item 10.1, raise your hand, come forward to the podium, state your name, and make your comment. Any public comment on 10.1? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comment period and move to commissioner deliberation or a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve to sell parcel 32021-56-01013, 160 East Panorama Drive in the amount of $5,000.
I would second.
We move to second to approve the sale of parcel 32021-56-01013, 160 East Panorama Drive in the amount of $5,000. Any additional discussion?
Just to comment, Mr. Chair, that this is a full price offer, and this was on the market for 67 days, it looks like. It said 139 in the front, so this is the one that was taken off again? Is that what that was? Okay. So 130 some odd days on the market, full price offer.
Okay, very good. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the motion carries. Moving on to item 10.2, public hearing to consider the sale of parcel 32021-56-01019 at 240 East Panorama Drive in the amount of $4,000. That's staff to brief.
And again, as you mentioned, this is a public hearing to consider the sale of that parcel, 32021-56-01019 at 240 East Panorama Drive in the amount of $4,000. It was also put up for auction in 2018 at the tax title auction with no interested bidders. The recommendation here is to approve to sell the parcel 32021-56-01019 at 240 East Panorama Drive in the amount of $4,000.
Okay, very good. Any questions for staff? Okay, any questions from the public for staff? Okay, hearing none, open public comment. If you'd like to make comment on item 10.2, please come forward. Any public comment on item 10.2? Okay, hearing none, we'll close public comment and move to commissioner deliberation or a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval to sell parcel 32021-56-01019, which is 240 East Panorama Drive in the amount of $4,000.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the sale of parcel 32021-56-01019 at 240 East Panorama Drive in the amount of $4,000. Any additional discussion?
Just to comment again, the 139 days on the market, original list price was $5,000 half a year ago.
Very good, thank you. Any additional comment? Okay, hearing none, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the motion carries. Moving on to item 10.3 of a public hearing to consider the sale of parcel 32021-56-01019. Oh. I did that. I can't believe I did that. Wow. Item 10.3, public hearing to consider a rezone request for approximately 7 acres in rural industrial to rural residential 2.5. Staff to brief on the correct item, unlike the chair.
Good evening, Kel Rowan, Mason County Planning. And this is a rezone request. The property owner has requested to rezone the nearly 8-acre parcel. It is in the Rural Activity Center of Taylortown. It's currently zoned rural industrial. The property owner wishes to rezone it to rural residential 2.5. It did go to the Planning Advisory Commission, in which they unanimously recommended approval to the board. And it is located just south of a rural multifamily. Freedom Lane is there's rural multifamily zoning of residential uses. There are across the highway, of course, it's bordered by Camilchi Lane, but then Highway 101 to the east. And then across the highway is all the commercial and pretty much perpendicular to Lynch Road. To the south is our properties that are zoned industrial, including an access road owned by Green Diamond and property owned by Washington State Department of Transportation that is a rock quarry that's operated by Northwest Rock. And staff is also recommending approval.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Any questions for staff from the commission? Any questions from the public for staff?
Kel, do you have any staff reports available?
Oh.
I
have mine.
I didn't bring extra, but I do have an extra. I can.
Good.
Yep. Let me grab that.
As Cal looks for that, are there any other questions on item 10.3? Okay, is there any public testimony on item 10.3? Again, if there is, raise your hand. I recognize you to come forward to the podium. Any public? Sure. Yep. Just come forward to the podium and just state your name and make your comment.
How's it going? Aaron. Just, let's see, comments. I just wanted to rezone residential. There's residential to the left of me and residential to the right. And when I purchased the property, I knew it was industrial, but I was able to purchase it as legal non-conforming use, so it was residential. So I just found that to be a good spot, and it's really quiet, and wanted to raise my 3 kids and family there. That was kind of awesome property. So I think that's it.
Great, thank you. Any additional comment on item 10.3? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public comment portion on item 10.3 and move to commissioner deliberation or motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the rezone request for parcel 31907-44-90031 from R1 to RR 2.5.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the rezone request of parcel 31907-44-90031 from rural industrial to rural residential 2.5. Any additional discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Next item is item 10.4, public hearing to consider a rezone request for approximately 7 acres in rural residential 2.5 to rural industrial, and ask staff to brief.
Hello, Kel Rowan again with Mason County Planning. So this rezone request is also from the property owner, and it is just south of and adjacent to the previous rezone request. It's currently zoned RR 2.5, so rural residential 2.5. It's also in the Rural Activity Center of Taylortown. And it is, the property owner is requesting a rezone to rural industrial. If you look at the map in your packet, you will see that it's sort of the two properties, the one we just heard previously, and then this application would essentially flip-flop. So there's rural industrial going to rural residential. This is rural residential going, proposing to go to industrial. It is industrial to the south. That's where the WashDOT and the rock quarry, and then the rural multifamily to the north here. To the west is all Green Diamond, long-term commercial forest property. There is an a 60-foot access easement owned by Green Diamond. It's an improved road and is used to access the long-term commercial forest in the back. Of course, across the highway to the west is commercial property. This also went to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission, in a 4-0 to 1 abstention vote, voted to deny this request, although staff did recommend approval. So here the board can ask questions of staff and or the applicant.
Commissioner?
Yeah, do we know, it's such an odd situation, these two parcels, the way they were set up here before the request of the rezone, they should have been switched from the very beginning. You had one that's connected to industrial and the other was connected to residential, but you had an industrial in between them. That was odd. Did you discover why that happened?
I did not. So back when the county first went through the zoning process, after growth management was adopted, we did not have a GIS system or aerial photos that we could readily see and look at, and I think staff relied upon going out and doing windshield surveys. I don't know that they did that for every single parcel in the county. We had assessor data based on what was the assessed use of the property, and so it may have been something that like Aaron had testified earlier, for the property being proposed to go to rural residential from rural industrial, it did have some previous commercial type uses. I'm not sure if it ever had industrial uses, but it may have looked at on an assessor's roll that, hey, this is an industrial type use, so they zoned it industrial, whereas the current property, or the property we're talking about now, that's owned by Mr. and Mrs. McTurnell, there is a residential structure on that property, and so it's hard. I have not talked to the person who actually zoned it. I'm just trying to piece together that's likely what happened, that they used assessor rules and perhaps some windshield surveys while doing that or the zoning for the first time for the county, and not everything's perfect, so.
Good question. One more question. The road that's in between this larger parcel and this one says Green Diamond, so this road is used primarily for industrial, commercial purposes now?
Yeah, Green Diamond, and they did submit comments for this rezone application, so it is in your packet as an exhibit. They do own all the property to the west, and they also own that 60-foot right-of-way easement that is an improved road. So there is a road that is there, and they use it to access their long-term commercial
They use it
forest
or own it?
properties.
You said they own it?
They own that easement,
Okay.
or they own the property, actually. So it's an easement that I think other folks use it. I'm not sure if the WashDOT is able to use that because they have their own access onto Camilchi Road there, but,
WashDOT also has a gate.
oh, and they have
They have a gate on that.
okay.
Their district.
But yeah, there is an improved road there, but it is owned by Green Diamond. It's a private road that accesses the long-term commercial forest.
And it's used for logging.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions for staff?
There's a stream that's close to it, I think.
It would be farther off to the west. Is that Mill Creek?
That's a little creek, and the Little Creek is
Little
approximately
Creek.
a quarter of a mile there.
Oh, it's
This
not on the property?
High on the hill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It's down a little way.
right. So neither of the previous property or this property are impacted by the creek setbacks. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission? Okay, any questions from the public for staff? Sir?
I'd like to testify this.
Oh, we'll testify in a moment.
Roll. I just wanted to know why the PAC board decided to reject that request.
There were several people from the Freedom Lane properties that testified in opposition to the rezone, worried about impacts that the rezone to industrial could have on their property. And so,
If I could just, sorry, go
The
ahead.
PAC board was responding to those concerns.
I was there, they took the vote, but I didn't question them after on why they, I did not talk to the individual PAC members on why they voted one way or the
I'm
other.
just wondering if there was a discussion at the table, and the discussion
The
involved
discussion
reasoning.
revolved around the possible impacts of the of rezoning to industrial.
Okay, thank you.
Just a quick follow-up to Tom's question. Were there any impacts to the Freedom Lane properties from the parcel that was rural industrial that we just rezoned to rural residential?
Like previous impacts? Not that were brought up.
Okay.
Where is that road at?
Freedom Lane?
Yes.
It's just to the north, and
That's
if you,
that next one up?
it's, yeah, if you look at the Madrona Park Rural Multifamily, Freedom Lane is the road. You could see how it's can
Yeah.
you tell how it's platted? So the road runs down, that's Freedom Lane and runs down to a cul-de-sac.
So it had industrial next to it for all this time?
Correct. Right, so until you just now voted to,
Right.
Make it residential?
make it residential, it was industrial.
Okay.
Okay. Question, Marilyn?
I was just trying to clarify, and Aaron may want to speak to this. I believe even though it was zoned industrial, it had a residential piece of building on it. The use was residential and non-conforming, so it wasn't an industrial use.
Although there was ongoing different commercial, several years ago, I purchased a refabbed washer dryer there's a garage or a structure on the back behind the residential structure. So there was some different commercial uses that operated over the years on that property. Not the one we're in question now, but the one we just heard, yeah.
Very good, Any other questions for staff before we move into public comment? Okay, hearing no other questions, we'll move into public comment on item 10.4. Again, if you'd like to make comment on this item, raise your hand. Chair will recognize you, come forward to the podium, make your comments. Any public comment?
Is this one right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening, Commissioners. For those that don't know me, my name is Bill McTurnell. I represent my wife and myself, Bill McTurnell Enterprises, and some of the many other investments that we have here in Mason County. We've been in Mason County in business since 1989. We have 12 full-time employees, 2 part-time employees. We give Mason County approximately $1.5 million every year in taxes and goods and services and the things we do. We operate a site in Camilche, Washington, almost directly across from Taylortown. If you were Ichiro and you could throw a ball across 101, you'd hit our property on the other side, down in the hole there. Excuse me. We actually process and recycle forest products. We also screen topsoil. We're permitted by the state of Washington and the county to do so. And a lot of our activity, we actually have grinders that actually grind forest products, and then we sell these products for mulch, or we sell them to paper plants, or they're used for cogeneration for power. And we've done this for many years now. Unfortunately, like all businesses, ours has grown, and because it's grown, we need more room. We're running into a safety problem because we have an awful lot of large equipment trucks at our site there across from Taylortown. I looked at the property that I own now, and I thought, what a wonderful piece of property. It has a rock quarry behind it, has a washtop yard next to it, has industrial property on the other side, and one of the busiest highways in the state of Washington in front of it with 330,000 vehicles a week passing through. So I was really surprised when my neighbor came over and said he wanted to change his to residential. I was further surprised when we came to a hearing that I thought I'd be able to just say, hey, you guys, I need the property, I'd like to park vehicles, maybe process some materials, and had solicited testimony from people in a mobile home park telling me that my excavator was an eyesore that I was using to pop stumps with. So, and I was also surprised when the chairman told me that, wait a minute, I wasn't really allowed to remark about what my neighbor was doing because I'd have to stand out in the hall. So I was surprised on several occasions because I thought, wait a minute, the best use for this property is industrial. It's surrounded by commercial or industrial. And I felt kind of like I was in a kangaroo court. I walked out of here shaking my head, feeling like the PAC chairman and everybody else had made up their minds before I even entered the room. So anyway, that's all I have to say. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on item 10.4? Yep.
Commissioners, thank you. Ken Van Buskirk from Belfair. I became aware of this rezone just yesterday and talked to Mr. McTurnell yesterday afternoon, and I've known Mr. McTurnell for quite a few years. We used to work for the Forest Service together, and we've had some dealings since then as well, and I've known him to be a great steward of his land, and he's a hardworking individual. I listened to the audio of that PAC meeting last evening, and I too, just from listening to it, had the impression that the PAC had their minds made up before the hearing was even closed. Some of the testimony was about fear of wildfire, and rightfully so. It's dry out. But I read through Mr. McTurnell's application, and some of the things he was trying to do was get rid of the stumps, which are a fire hazard. And if there were a fire to break out there, I could assure you that Bill would be there with a bulldozer in 5 minutes to put it out. That's the kind of person he is. So I was kind of shocked when I heard all this testimony against it, because staff had said it was basically just a zoning swap, and it made sense. And as I listened to the meeting further, the PAC actually started deliberating before the chairman close the public hearing. And I just felt that Mr. McTurnell wasn't afforded a impartial hearing. Staff did recommend approval of both of these rezones, describing it as a zoning swap. I feel that Mr. McTurnell's rezone, just like the other one, meets all the rezone criteria, and I would suggest that you follow staff's recommendation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any additional public comment on 10.4?
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. Tom Davis, and I am completely unfamiliar with the specifics of this particular public hearing and the properties itself, so I'm here just to talk about the process. This is what I'm usually focused on. When a recommendation is made that's contrary to what was expected, then some sort of questioning should take place. That questioning has happened here in this process, but that would not, I don't believe, had happened had we brought some things to your attention. When I go to the briefing and I hear something, I hear the PAC made a recommendation on a particular project, and it's almost out of hand dismissed, then I contact the chair and say, well, maybe you want to defend that recommendation or the lack of that recommendation to the council. It is important. I have a lot of respect for the committees. Remember, these are all volunteer positions, and when they deliberate and when they come to a decision, right or wrong, that decision needs to be respected up to a point where at least there's some curiosity about why they came to a decision that was different than what you were expecting, and it should not just be dismissed. I believe this process clarified, and this process has gone that way. So it's ultimately, remember, they're always just recommendations to you. You have the final decisions. No one's arguing that. I just would like to see that that deliberation take place with a little bit more seriousness, since these people are volunteers and they do a heck of a job. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on 10.4?
Aaron Baruka. I live next to the subject property. Just trying to speak on behalf of the Freedom Lane 2. Nobody could make it here tonight. They all sort of had their things that they had to take care of. But some of the concerns that we had for the rezone was concerns of heavy equipment being stored there for current use, proposed use, and for future uses. So we had concerns of like heavy equipment, diesel fuel, hydraulic fuel, contaminating the water table. There's like 30 lots next door, and I don't know how anybody would go about fixing the water table if it was to be contaminated. And then we were concerned about storing of wood debris and any other kind of debris that could bring in, the one that could leach harmful chemicals into the soil, which had been brought up by the casino, by the Squaxin Indian tribe. Those sort of economical damaging things to the environment would perhaps just sort of cause more of a nuisance, but also just, you know, it could be like rats and who knows. I mean, there could be piles. It's industrial, so they can do whatever they want over there, basically, as far as I know. And then, so we were concerned about the water table, that, and just the overall, the noise and the lights and the air and all that. There's no way to really mitigate dust if there were to be any future use. And also we were just concerned about not what Mr. McTurnell's planning on doing, just storing equipment there, but what anybody can now do as an industrial property. And my property was never really used to its full industrial use. So there's really no way to say what the impacts were or could have been. And now that my rezone's approved, there's no more buffer between residential to industrial, and this last residential parcel on the side would have sort of, I would have been a perfect buffer, but it's now residential, so there's no buffer to this whole neighborhood. And now that I have rural residential 2.5, I can potentially, there could be 2 more houses on my current property. So that, and combined with the entire neighborhood, it just can affect the whole properties and values and everything. And so, yeah, we were just concerned about everything that could be. So that's it.
Great, thank you. Any other public comment on, one second, is there any other public comment on item 10.4? Okay, having nobody, you want to make another comment?
I've tried to be as much of an honorable gentleman as I could possibly be throughout the process. It does one no good to become a hard manure. So, but I would like to state that we're talking about an individual who owns a company quite like mine with heavy equipment, with dump trucks, an excavator, equipment trailer, a bobcat, a farm tractor that is parked right now on his property next to mine. The people at Freedom Lane have to look across his 7 acres just to see a lone excavator that I have parked on my property. And he's complaining that he could possibly have some problems with the water table, yet he's got all the same damn equipment that I do, and a sign out front that says affordable septic systems. The guy is a general contractor. He brings concrete on his property and buries it, and yet he's afraid that I might park equipment on my property next door. I just got to tell you guys, I wasn't allowed to say this at the last hearing because I was shut down by the PAC chairman, but I am saying it tonight. Is there anybody other than the PAC chairman that doesn't see the travesty in this? Are we all going insane? We've got 2 people doing the same thing on like properties. One is taking theirs into residential. Is he going to take his dump trucks and his heavy equipment and move them out to a site? I would doubt it, because he has all the facilities next door in what is now residential to continue to operate out of there. I'm already operating out of Camilchi across from Taylortown, and all I wish to do is store some equipment there and maybe use it for processing in the future. If this is the way that things have to go in Mason County, God help us all.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment on item 10.4?
Marilyn Vogler, Chair of the PAC, and I don't want to comment about details of this. I don't feel it appropriate since I don't speak for PAC, and it's hard to be an individual. I would remind you, though, what we are reminded of every time we consider a rezone, that we do not consider a particular use by a particular requester for rezone, that we consider the full implications of whatever use that rezone might apply, might allow. That is a procedure we're reminded of. Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Well, if you're going to make a comment, you have to come up here. But I just want to. You can make your comment up here. But just for everybody's own sake here, I don't want to get into a tit for tat here and have you come up and say something and then have the applicant come say
whatever you guys decide.
So, but I mean, if you want to make another comment, you're more than welcome to. I just want to make sure that we don't go back and forth.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna go. I don't want to go back and forth either. So.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Okay. Any other public comment? Okay. Hearing none, we'll close the public comment period and move to commissioner deliberation or motion. Commissioner?
Some of you are aware that I served on the PAC for many years and was the chair of the PAC for many years. And to be honest with you, I'm surprised that that certain things were not looked at as I believe they're supposed to. One of the things and that's one of the reasons why I was surprised when this came to me the way it did. One of the first things you look at as a PAC is you've got to separate your personal feelings, and you got to separate even the neighbor's feelings from the actual project that's in front of you. And one of the first things you look at is what's the properties that are around it. For example, if you've got all residential around it, somebody wants to go to commercial or industrial, no, that's called spot zoning. You're not supposed to do that. But we're supposed to usually try to help the people get where they need to go, if it's permitted and if it's within what's realistic. In this particular situation, the thing that's surprising to me at the time is yours had not been rezoned yet. It just had occurred. That means that on all sides of it, it was industrial. So, if anything, the spot zone was the residential that was in the middle of it until we just changed it. And that should have been corrected in the very beginning. These are the things that we correct when we were on that committee. I understand that the neighbors don't like things and stuff. That's the way it is everywhere. And this sounds callous, but the truth of the matter is everybody's entitled to purchase that piece of property if that's what it comes to, so they can make the decision on how they're going to use that property. But in this situation, it's literally a switch, which is what you look for from the Planning Commission. Whenever you take something out of residential and you put something into it, you're hoping that you can copy it or switch it to somewhere else, because we have a balance that we're supposed to keep. And in this situation, we had two people that were asking to switch, so it makes things very simple if we all work together, and it wouldn't be spot zoning because at the time it had industrial all the way around it. So I didn't mean, and I appreciate your statement because normally you're right, it shouldn't be looked at that way, but when I was looking at all this, when this came before us, I was a little surprised because I had never seen that happen in this type of situation. And so I was very concerned and still am. I hope that we do always want to listen to the people, but we want to listen and give the rights of the majority does not trump the rights of the minority. And they're entitled to be able to do what they can do within the law. So I just want to point out that that's why I was so surprised when I saw it. All those things I put in there. And although all kinds of things can happen, the Growth Management Act was created to create these things in this manner. I didn't create that. I didn't like it. I still don't like dealing with the Growth Management Act that way, but that is the way it's set up, and so that's what we're supposed to enforce. So it's not personal, but my belief is this is a no-brainer. It should have been switched. It should have been almost a map correction, especially when, you know, the funny thing is it never, this property that's next to it didn't have a buffer before, and now it actually does if somebody's not going to turn it into something bigger and larger. So that community is buffered more today because of the reason we just did than it was a half an hour ago. So with that, I'll be supporting the rezone.
Any other commissioner deliberation? Okay, I just have a couple of comments, I guess. Yeah, you know, I would concur with Commissioner Nevelin. I mean, we had a pretty lengthy conversation about this in briefing a couple of weeks ago prior to setting this hearing tonight. We discussed it briefly yesterday again, and you know, I really struggle to see the rationale of the PAC, and I don't mean that in a way that would takes away from the hard work that they do. Like Commissioner Evan, I was on the Planning Commission for a couple of years before, you know, becoming a commissioner, and so it's hard work. And you have a lot of things to sift through, and you hear a lot of public comment, you know, and you try to wrap your head around: does this make sense? Is this in the best interest of the community? Does this ultimately follow the law and the spirit and intent of growth management? And you know, and sometimes. You know, sometimes there are situations where, you know, the potential development is concerning, but the rezone itself makes sense based on the criteria that we have in front of us. And so this was one of those situations where, you know, I took a look at this both as a former planning advisory commission member and as you know, my role as a county commissioner. And I thought, I don't know that the decision of the PAC is necessarily in line with, you know, how I would have decided as a member of the PAC, and ultimately how I will decide tonight as a commissioner. To Mr. McTurnell, just a couple of things. One, you know, if you weren't given an opportunity to speak appropriately at the Planning Commission meeting, I apologize for that. I think, you know, there should be open forums, and you know, you have a right to voice your opinion on that. In particular, as the applicant and the landowner, and so. If you were not given that opportunity at that time, I believe you should have, and so I apologize for the experience that you had there as an applicant.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so, you know, you know, Tom mentioned it, you know, process driven. We always need to be looking at our process and make sure that, you know, we give people time and that we're allowing, you know, people to have a healthy, informed debate on these issues. Just a quick question for you. So you have some heavy machinery that's located off of this parcel. Is that heavy machinery located closer to Little Creek or further away from Little Creek than it would be if you moved?
The excavator that I have on the site we're talking about now is the Komatsu 200. My other site is that, if that's the one you're
referring to. So the other site where you
as you drive towards Olympia, and you'll pass Taylortown, because Taylortown will be on your left. And on the other side, you'll look down on the hole there, and you'll see bulldozers and lowboys and processing equipment. You'll see screen plants and crushers and grinders.
And so that's closer to Little Creek than
Yes.
than the parcel in question
I got
tonight.
a letter from the Squaxin, if this is what we're alluding to, I got a letter from the Squaxin tribe, and they asked me if I would consider moving some of my equipment 150 feet further. Right now, I have a 150-foot buffer from Little Creek, just so you know. And they're wanting it to be a 300-foot buffer. So I wrote a letter back to the Squaxin Island tribe, who I do a lot of work for. I plow all their snow, and I do a lot of heavy construction work for them. And I simply suggested to them in the most honorable fashion, I'll be more than happy to move my facilities as soon as you move yours.
Mhm. So, but if you were to move some of that machinery to the parcel that we're discussing now, that would be farther from Little Creek?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So, you know,
What I'm trying to do, Your Honor, is I'm trying to move the equipment, or some of the equipment, not all of it. I'll still have a couple of dump trucks and some equipment, but the majority of the equipment will actually be now a quarter mile further away from Little Creek than it is right now.
Okay, thank you. You know, and just to the idea of how we zone and, you know, where, you know, we made a, Commissioner Nolan referred to it essentially as a map correction tonight, but we swapped these parcels. You know, I would ask the commission to think and the public to think tonight, where should the rural residential end on the map then? What would be an appropriate buffer? You know, and I mean, if that's, if we think it should extend further south, then maybe we need to have WASDOT come in and talk about their pit and see about, you know, rezoning that. You know, there are consistent uses here that we're considering that already exist. You know, and I think, you know, even given the amount of work and effort that the PAC put into this, I do think that this is a rezone that makes sense. It's very rare, at least in my tenure here, to have a commission maybe, you know, make a decision different than the planning commission. That happens, though. I think that's part of our job, and, you know, us doing our due diligence and listening to the public comment that we receive, and you know, so I also intend to be supportive of the rezone that's in front of us with 10.4. Okay, if there's any other deliberation, if not, I would entertain a motion. Any deliberation?
Mr. Chairman, I move the Board of County Commissioners approve the rezone request of parcel 31907-44-090031 from, wait a second, I got the wrong one here. Yep, I got the wrong one. Sorry, guys.
It's an epidemic up here.
Yep. I move that we approve the rezone request of parcel 31907-44-0040 from RR2 to R1, or to rural industrial.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the rezone request for parcel 31907-44-00040 from RR 2.5 to rural industrial. Any other discussion, commissioners?
I just want to point out for those that are in the audience and that are wondering about this, we just did a rezone before we did this one because one side of it was touching residential. If it hadn't been touching residential, it couldn't have been rezoned either. One of the four sides was touching. This one, up until this, had four sides touching. So, for what its request is. And I just wanted to point that out, that is the difference on it.
Can I make a comment?
No.
Request?
What's that?
Can there be any sort of delineation for visual perpetuations? There's no fence or anything right now.
No.
Is there any requirements for
No, not that
sort of
you can have the conversation with staff afterwards and discuss that, but we're past public comment. Any other commissioner discussion? Okay. Just a thanks to staff and the planning commission for working these issues. You guys do a lot of work. You're here late at night sometimes, and you have to balance a lot of different you know, tasks that come along with being on planning commission. So I do appreciate the work, and staff is often right there alongside you. So thank you for that. And
I appreciate the deliberation this evening. I was glad you were willing to talk further about it.
Absolutely. Okay, if there's no other commissioner discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? And the motion carries. Having reached the end of our agenda, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
We're adjourned. Have a good night, everybody.
And if you'd like to talk to the commission.